What's up, guys? I am very much back today with some MyTeam, some F123 in MyTeam with the Omega E Racing team. And as you can see right here, first shot, we've got the best car on the grid. And as you see here from recent results, I hope this isn't spoiling for anybody, but we got the DNF, we got a first place in Jeddah, we got a P6 in Australia. And if you remember, that was I made a bunch of errors, so it was the P6 was kind of it could have been better maybe, but as a result of my errors and running into other cars and breaking my front wing, we ended up at P6. So not too bad. But this week we are in Baku, which is a track that I do not enjoy at all. I am just not good here. I'm not good at this track. I never feel like I have a great setup. I never feel comfortable here. And it's interesting because a track like Monaco, which obviously has a lot of really tight barriers to the track like Baku does, I actually have a pretty good time. And Jeddah is a track as well that I just have a pretty good time. But there's something about Baku with all the 90-degree turns that I just really, I've never felt great at, and I didn't feel great throughout this weekend, which is a sprint weekend, by the way. So you're going to be seeing the qualifying and then the sprint race and then the full race. But here's my first qualifying lap, just a little bit of understeer, ran right into the wall. Unfortunate, but we don't even put a time on the board there. And like I said, I just didn't feel comfortable and just continue to not feel comfortable throughout, and it's obvious there. And also, I think setup wise, something that I sort of realized as the weekend went on is that I do think that I have maybe I don't think that I was running enough downforce, basically, because you see a couple times when I just what's the word? I just have a ton of understeer, right? And that's sort of what caused my contact with the wall on my first lap. And here in my second lap, again, I just don't look comfortable at all, and I don't feel comfortable. So I am just missing apexes left and right, and just not really doing much of anything here. So I'm getting somewhat worried at this point that I'm not even going to be able to set even a decent lap, and I'm going to be qualifying P22. But we're obviously going to give it a go and see what we can do. But I don't really have much high hopes, honestly, at this point. And I'm starting to panic a little bit because hopefully I can make up some spots in the sprint race and the feature race, because as you saw earlier on in this video, I do have the best car on the grid. So even if I have a really poor qualifying, if I'm smart in the sprint race, that should give me some time to really move up in time for the feature race. Because remember, in this game, it's not like it currently is in real life F1 in 2023, where you have qualifying that sets the grid for the real race and then a sprint shootout that sets the grid for the sprint race. The format in this F123 game is the same as what it was last year in real life, and that is a P22, by the way. I'm well off the pace, unfortunately. Let's see what we can do in our third lap. But as I was saying, the format here is qualifying that sets the grid for a sprint race, which then sets the grid for the feature race. So the qualifying, of course, is important because you'd like to be in a good spot for the sprint, but no matter what happens in qualifying, you're going to get the sprint as an opportunity to move yourself up for the feature race. And if you look at this, I'm honestly driving a little better here. I'm roughly a second and a half up through a couple turns, and you can see that I'm just hitting apexes a lot better than I was on the second lap. I don't like this track a lot, but even still, I think that last lap that I did was just very poor by any standards. But I'm almost 2.5 seconds up now on the time that I was putting in. So hopefully we should get an opportunity here to be much higher up on the grid than we would have been, obviously, with the P22 from our last lap. But I'm just flowing a lot better here, and this is a brand new set of tires, a little bit of track evolution. I am feeling much better, 2.5 seconds up. I don't know exactly where that's going to put me if I can continue this to the end of the lap, but I think I should at least be maybe right outside the points or something. Unfortunately, I lock up. I'm pushing fully to my limit, and I lock up, and I am out of qualifying. I retire a DNF from qualifying, and that is a P22 for the sprint race. So we are in big trouble here. If you look at my time, it was a 146.6. So think I would have been around 144 or something like that. Which looks like it would have put me in P12, P13, something like that. So still well below where I should be, but a lot better than P22. And one comment that I will say, in past history, maybe if I'd had this happen in a previous game, I probably would have taken an engine penalty there. I would have gotten a full new engine in my pool, but the AI doesn't really seem to do that. It doesn't seem to take advantage of the rules like that. So I kind of wanted to do my best to not breach the rules, like, or not breach the rules, but take advantage of the way the game works like that. And so I decided not to do that, and I'm just gonna do what the AI would do, which is basically take a penalty for a component when you need to take it based on not having enough left, rather than taking the opportunity to put a full new engine and such in the pool. By the way, that was a really weird situation right there. I just sort of ghosted out when I was on the inside of that car, and he would have made contact with me if we hadn't ghosted. So that was just kind of weird. But what you're seeing in this sprint race so far is exactly what I said in qualifying. I figured out during this weekend that I just have I'm not running as high of downforce as some of these other cars. And you may not be able to see this or hear this rather, but I did get a message at somewhere around lap 3 or 4 that said that my DRS was broken. So my DRS was not working, and I'm passing these cars with battery and no DRS. So I'm running not as high downforce as these guys are. I've got much lower downforce. Thought that was a cheeky little pass. I like that. Getting past Magnussen right there. Thought that was good. Got a nice little exit and sort of took advantage of him leaving the space, and we'll see what happens. You see me have a big moment there as I'm behind Ricardo, and that pretty much is probably going to preclude me from being able to pass Ricardo going down the straight, but it looks like we've got a car moving slow, and I almost run into the back of him. It's Valtteri Bottas. But unfortunately, the fact that I had to pull off the throttle to avoid running into the back of the Alfa Romeo means that I am going to be absolutely exposed on this straight by both of the Hasses. We got Magnussen and Hulkenberg, and they've just got a lot more speed than I do because they didn't have that little hitch at the beginning of the straight where they had to slow down to avoid a car. So they're in a better situation than I am. They easily make the passes, and I'm right back to P19. The good news here is that it's looking a lot like, well, there's Verstappen spun. That's unfortunate for him. And we'll see how quickly he gets going again. He should be moving pretty quickly, and you can see as we advance a few laps in the sprint. We're on the last lap here. Verstappen is right up behind me, just had a rapid pace. And I really didn't feel good throughout the sprint. I mean, you've seen me make a couple moves, but really, I'm well below where I should be. I've gotten almost nothing done for the feature race, so I've got my work cut out for me for the feature race. And I'm just hoping to survive and stick to this P18. You can see my battery's pretty low. I'm sliding all over the track. The mediums just felt kind of cooked at this point. I don't know if we're going to see tire wear here, but we're probably in the 30s, 40s. I'm not completely sure, but I was totally feeling the tire deg, and I didn't have a lot of battery. Verstappen is rapid behind me, so I'm pretty worried at this point. I'm well off the pace that I was setting earlier in the race, and even that pace that I was setting earlier wasn't really enough to get anything done, as you can see. There were a couple opportunities I had to pass really backfield, or that's not the word, back markers with battery usage on the straight, but otherwise I just wasn't really getting anything done. This result is well below what I should be achieving in this car with my driving ability, which is not great, but I do have the best car on the grid, so I should be achieving much higher, and I think we'll see that Jamie did much better than I did, and you can kind of see her up at the front of the pack. It looks like she's in P5 maybe at this point, but we have a little bit of a moment there where Verstappen, so I sort of had to go off the throttle to avoid running into a wall. Verstappen was not prepared for that, ran into the back of me, and you could see the wreckage of his car flying up there for a second, and he DNFs. So we're going to do our best to try to get you a replay of that, but that was absurd. I could feel him hit the back of my car, so I hit the rearview mirror, and I see him flying through the air. Jamie with the P4, very nicely done by her. Good for the team. That's some points. I certainly didn't get any points for the team, so it's nice that at least one car was able to do it. But here's the replay. Verstappen just just taps the back of me, hits the wall, loses a wheel, and then runs over his own wheel. So kind of a disaster.
And a warm welcome to you from Azadlik Square, heart of Baku, and home, of course, to the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. With high speeds, tight corners and few runoff zones, many are expecting a safety car here today. So our drivers will have to stay very much on their toes and hopefully out of the barriers. Baku City Circuit then. It's an unpredictable 3.7-mile track around the streets of the Azerbaijan capital. 20 turns for our drivers to navigate today, including the infamous Turn 8, one of the tightest and most challenging corners of the season. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, and starting next to them is George Russell. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Chadwick, Hamilton, Perez, Fernando Alonso, Norris, Oscar Piastri, Stroll, Albon, Gasly, Ocon, Ricciardo, Tsunoda, Magnussen, Hulkenberg, Joker, Joe, Sargent, Verstappen, and Valtteri Bottas begins the race from the back of the grid. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. And joining me once again in the commentary box today is, of course, former World Endurance Champion Anthony Davidson. Can we begin by having a chat about Charles Leclerc?
Well, it was a really impressive lap in qualifying to get pole position, but are they going to be able to hold on to the lead into the first corner with so many quick starters around them? And apart from that, keep an eye out for anyone getting a good launch from the midfield. You see it happen from time to time, and it can really throw a spanner into the races of the quicker cars and push them into a more risky strategy.
So that's the grid for the race. P18, we are looking at a two-stop here, soft, medium. We'll see if we can make that work successfully. Hopefully we can, and hopefully we can make up a lot of spaces in this race. You see that the grid is largely starting on softs. Guan Yu Zhou behind me is on the mediums. We got a couple hards in front, so there are going to be opportunities here for me to move up the grid with my faster car, and I'm a little more comfortable now after running all the laps that we did in the sprint race, 17 laps I think it was. So that's just 17 more laps that I've run on this track, and just feeling a little bit more comfortable with the car, a little more acclimated to the package that we have this weekend, and sort of just getting a little bit faster, hopefully. Because I think that happens. I always find with myself that when I do a really long race, by the end of the race, I'm just feeling a little bit more comfortable. You find out little things about, here's a better way to attack this turn, here's a better place to brake, here's a better gear to be in for this corner. And maybe if I did copious amounts of practice, if I was doing 6-7 hours of practice before one of these races, I would have that figured out beforehand. But the honest truth is that I run basically just enough laps to kind of get familiar with the track and set myself a pretty good AI level. And I'm not going to waste much more time beyond that, because I am going to run a 100% race here, and it's going to be a lot of laps. And I kind of feel like I'm going to get the opportunity to run a lot of laps there, and kind of just want to best use my time efficiently to get used to the track, and then get ready and be able to achieve in the race without having to, again, treat this like some kind of league race championship or something that I'm spending hours and hours and hours of practice on before I do the actual real thing. So that's my little spiel on that. But we get this nice little pass there, but we do a little bit of wheel banging with Ocon as we go past. Fortunately, I'm able to stay in front of him, and I'm up to P15 as we go into the third lap here. So DRS is going to be activated, and it's back again for this race. It was gone in the sprint race, but it seems like it's something that the team has fixed without violating Parc Fermé overnight, and we are ready for the feature race now, and hopefully we'll be able to pass more cars with working DRS, and again, a little bit of more familiarity with the track. So Gasly, it looks like we're going to get by pretty quickly. He's on the hards, I'm on the softs. You see where there's going to do 10 or 11%. You may have also seen that we've got this little icon for the engine. So I think in retrospect, maybe I should have changed some parts for this race that I didn't, because I think some of the components were over 50%, which I think is generally kind of 50% is generally kind of the component usage where you get a lot of performance degradation. I'm not positive about that, but that's something that I've heard some other creators say in the past. And Fernando Alonso's out of the session, so we're up to P11. We haven't pitted yet, so this is like a real P11 P12 right here, I believe. So this to me feels pretty good. We make contact there. I'm on simulation damage, and I'm surprised that didn't cause any damage for me. Hopefully it didn't cause any damage for him. I did get a warning for it, but it looks like we're going to pass Ricardo pretty quickly again as he's got the DRS, I think. But again, my setup, I'm running pretty low downforce, and I'm crushing these guys on straights. He intelligently backs out of that one and immediately loses a bunch of time from it, but this is good for me. So guys start pitting. I'm on the softs, and I'm going soft, soft, medium. So I think that these guys are going to pit a little sooner than I am, just because they're likely going something like soft, hard, or soft, medium, hard. Maybe I'm not completely sure, but we haven't pitted yet. I'm up to P7, and we're now going into the pits. Immediately get passed by a couple cars that were on the same strategy as I was, and I think some cars that were ahead of me in the order and have already pitted for their second set of softs. I'm not super positive about that, but that feels right. You see the exit there is just terrible. I knew that we were at the end of the pit lane, and so it was going to be very quick, but I was not prepared at all, and I think I ended up losing more time than I probably needed to exiting the pits there. I don't know that it's going to make a huge difference in the grand scheme of things, but I came out P18, which is exactly where I started. And am up to P17 pretty quickly, and hopefully going to pass Bottas here and get up to P16. But the way I'm thinking about strategy in this race is a lot of cars are going to be taking two sets of softs, but I'm expecting a lot of these AI to do a soft hard strategy, or a soft medium hard strategy. I think soft hard is what I ended up seeing, but that means that on this very last stint of the race, when I'm on mediums, some of these AIs are their trade stop for that will be on hard. So theoretically, I should be able to do a lot better than those cars, is my hope. I don't know if that's actually going to be true, but that's my hope. And it's just going to be kind of tough to see, I think, until that last stint, how I'm really looking. Because cars are going to be on different strategies. You saw guys starting on hards, you saw guys starting on mediums, and we're all gonna converge towards the end of the race as our strategies kind of work it out. I just made contact with the wall. That's why I'm checking my vehicle condition. Trying to get past Tsunoda here, just barely managed to do it. Stay ahead, got the place, and now it's on to Ricardo. I'm on my second set of softs. I am P11, and I'm feeling pretty good at this point. I don't know how far ahead I'm going to be able to go, because Stroll's a full 10 seconds ahead of me, and then that whole group of cars up there is pretty far ahead as well. And I get past Ricardo there. Pretty nice move. The AI just a little bit docile, I think, and so I was able to benefit from that. But let's see how we're shaking out here. All these cars are pitting. I'm up to P7. It looks like I've taken some time out of Stroll, and I continue to take some time out of Stroll at the end of my second stint here. But Verstappen, it looks like he's going to make pretty quick work of me, which is disheartening, again, because I've got a better car than he does. I think he started behind me, didn't he? Yeah, he definitely did, because he DNF'd in the sprint race, remember? So he maybe is a true opponent on the track, but it seems like he's having a really good race, and it seems like he's really rapid and has unlocked some pace that I just haven't found. You can tell that I'm sliding around a bit here. It seems like these tires are probably gone. I don't know if I'm going to show you tire wear, but just based on the lap, I think probably 15, 20 is about, it's about what we did on tires. So obviously it's time to pit again. And you see me hit the pit limiter. We go into the pits, and Jamie's in P2 if you look at that. So that's nicely done. A little bit better pit exit there, and I'm in P18 again. So I start in P18. When I go to my second set of softs, I'm back to P18. And when I go to my mediums, I'm again P18. But keep in mind, we do not have to pit again. So at this point, it's gravy. I'm climbing up the order here, and what I get is is what I'm going to get. Made very quick work of Logan Sargent, back behind the Alfa Romeo of Valtteri Bottas again, and Magnussen right in front of him. If you've been paying attention in the last 2 or 3 laps, I've taken a lot of time out of both of those cars because I think my tires are much newer than theirs are, and I think, if you can see, they're starting to pit. So I am feeling decent about that. Did a little slide there. Valtteri gets back past me, but hopefully I'm going to be able to take this from him pretty quickly. I don't actually remember what happened here. Yeah, all right, so I get the DRS and quickly get by him. We are P15, and we are going to keep climbing. Fast forward a bit here later on in the lap 34. I'm right behind Hulkenberg. Got way more pace than these guys. Got a faster car, got fresher tires. There's no reason that I need to spend any more time back here. And I actually made this cheeky little pass on Hulkenberg earlier than the straight, and hopefully I'm going to get a chance at Ocon and Stroll here on the straight, who are both battling each other. So I got the DRS. I hit the battery. I'm getting pretty low on battery, but I'm also catching up to these cars quite a bit. And I mean, I'm feeling really good at this point. I think there's no question that we should be in the points, and I'll be interested to see what kind of points we can maximize here, just based on the pace delta that I've got going on with these slower cars on older tires. You saw me hit the back of Ocon there, going into the end of the long straight, and the exit of the first corner there, but I am able to get past him eventually, and no damage to the titanium front wing that I have on this car, apparently, even though we're on simulation damage. Ricardo is once again in my sights, as he has been multiple times in this race, and again, make contact with him, get the cheeky little pass done in these S's, and it's off to the races, and Stroll is next. So Gasly pits. He's probably going on to softs, but I think I should have the delta on him, I think, throughout the end of the race, I would hope. But Stroll is next up, and this is for points, right? I mean, Stroll is P10, so if we can get past him, we will get points. And Tsunoda is very close as well, and we've got a long time to catch him. The question, I think, will be, can we catch anybody else after that? Because if you're looking at the map in the bottom left, there's a pretty big gap to the next gaggle of cars. So I'm not too optimistic about what we can get done there. But Norris and Albon are both pitting, so I wonder if I'll be able to take advantage of that. So it's looking like P8 there after the pitting and passing those cars. And I'm just going to fast forward a bit through this last stint. You see Norris 6 seconds ahead of me, Verstappen 15 seconds ahead of me. Again, he started behind me, so that's disheartening. But we're putting quite a gap on Stroll and Albon, and Norris, it looks like, just kind of runs away with it. I think he obviously went onto those hard tires, but he's going to end up having a longer life on those tires than I did on the mediums. So I'm not too worried about Albon and Gasly behind me, but it also looks like I'm not going to be able to catch the McLarens in front of me. So, well, I say that, but look at that gap to Albon coming down. It's down to 3.5 seconds, 3 seconds, 2.5 seconds as we go through this last stint. So we'll see what the battery usage is like, but there's no question Albon's getting pretty close here. It was down to 1 second and then up to 2 seconds. Hovering around 1 second now, so it's looking like we're going to have a battle at the very end of this race with Alex Albon behind me. But you can see here, lap 49, we're going into lap 50. Alex Albon is less than 0.2 behind me, so I thought that our strategy was pretty prime with the soft medium, but it's looking like Albon on these hards actually ended up being on the smarter strategy, because I do think that my tires are a bit dead at this point in the race. I mean, 21 laps on the medium, something like that. And yeah, Albon just kind of runs away with it a little bit, which is disappointing. It's interesting that I've sort of plateaued here. Yeah, you see the rears are on 37 and 39% for the left and right, respectively. So 40% on the 2 rear tires. I do remember at the end of this race, I filmed this quite a while ago, but I did feel like I was losing the rear a lot at the end of the race. So it tracks with the tire wear, and it's just how it is. So this looks like it's going to be a pretty nice recovery. We went from P18 at the beginning of the sprint race to P9. So overall, I mean, I think that this feels like it was a pretty good outcome by me, a pretty good race, maximizing what we could do from P18. But also, man, it's disappointing because we should not have been starting P18. And Jamie, I would expect, did a lot better than I did in this race. Yeah, she's very clearly ahead of me. It looks like she's maybe on the podium. I guess we'll see at the end of the race. But overall, disappointed with the weekend. This is a track that I don't enjoy, so I'm glad to be done with it. And we're on to Miami next, I think, which is a track that I do like quite a bit more. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited to not have to race here for another year, unless it's league racing. But it's disappointing. You got the best car on the grid, crash out during qualifying on a lap that would have put you probably P12 or P13, but start P22. The sprint race did not go well. It was up to P18, I guess, to start the feature race. And I do think we maximized what we could do today, right? So P9, that's 2 points. It could have been better, could have been worse, I guess. But overall, just really not a good weekend for me. And it was okay for the team. Jamie got 12 points in the race, so she got 17 points total. I got 2 points total. And I guess so it's a P4 for her in the race. So really nicely done by her. I think that's probably her first really good result of the year. But I'm gonna need to pick up the slack if we as a team are to achieve more, and if I'm to do well in the drivers championship. So yeah, just a tough weekend, but we'll be back with Miami. No sprint race there, and hopefully we can get a lot more points and do a little bit better. Thanks for watching.